call the regular Board of Public Works meeting for October 23rd to order. So first, we can have Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. We're going to keep Ted Becker in our prayers. Thank you. Moving on, so we have the entire board here: Barbara Curtis, Preston Lee, Richard Nichols, and Bob Heffernan. I guess Andrew's not with us today, so the mayor's excused. Austin Callum, our general manager, Robin Davis, and Michael Hoffman, our legal counsel. So, first thing is the consent agenda.
You know, I have a question. We have on our consent agenda, receive the treasurer report and receive assistant treasurer report. But it's really the finance report, isn't it? I mean, and it's always read that way.
We are more than happy. We can put on there, instead of receive general manager's report, we can put receive finance manager's report and put the financials underneath of it.
Or staff reports.
Yeah.
Than anything.
I think that's appropriate. I have some obvious questions because if you show me numbers, I ask questions.
All right, so why don't we pull the treasurer's report out? And actually, thank you. And, you know, Kim usually speaks as after general manager's report, but we can pull the treasurer's report out. And I just had two comments on the August 28th minutes.
So why don't you entertain a motion to pull the secretary report and the treasurer's report, and then just handle your comments on those?
Okay. So we pulled the treasurer's report and the August 28th BPW meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So I think you need a motion to pull the secretary report and the treasurer's report.
Okay, we need a motion for that, okay.
I move that we pull the treasurer's report and the August 28th meeting minutes report from the consent agenda.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And then that leaves the other two sets of minutes.
so now a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't at one of those meetings, so I have to confuse myself.
All right. Then mine is just two typos or two quick ones, and then we can go to page 2 of the meeting minutes. It's the last bullet at the very bottom of the page. Slightly elevated phosphorus levels on the last DMR due to a broken alum, and it says arm, and that should be alarm, I believe. And on page 10, there's some confusion. The meeting started at
2 o'clock.
4 p.m. Because this is the meeting minutes. This is for the regular meeting.
Yeah, you had an executive session prior and then walked.
I know, but
Yeah.
yeah, the meeting started at 4, and then in bullet 21, it says Mr. Nichols made a motion to adjourn to the executive session at 2:07 PM. There's just something wrong with the times. And then it says we went back to open session at 6:34 PM. Yeah, I'm just not,
You know what, since you raised open meeting minutes, I had a question. I forgot. On page 8, item 16, we were discussing the canal crossing update, and the last sentence in the first paragraph says, "The Lewes Chamber of Commerce will be helping BPW with communications moving forward." I wondered, I didn't remember that. What help will they be giving us?
that was at the time. That's not now. That's not currently.
I think that probably had to do with the canal crossing, the messaging on the failure of the canal crossing.
And that if we had gone to the chamber, they could have gotten the message out to their members versus we're now going to be combining with the city and using the replacement for Code Red. What is that called?
We're still working through it, but
Right,
the
but-
presentation was from Civic Plus.
So this was in the heat of the moment, and it's kind of evolving.
Let us take a look at it and we'll
Okay,
talk about it.
okay, thank you.
But I think that is correct for what we discussed at the time.
And I just want to reiterate that when you guys talk, make sure you speak into the mics because
Oh.
Jackie does the minutes based
Yeah.
off this recording. So
Hi, Jackie.
as clear, as concise as we can be to help her when she's doing minutes, especially this line.
Thank you. All right, so treasurer's report then?
Do you want to do that or do it after?
No, go ahead, Ken.
Okay,
We pulled it from the consent, so we,
okay, great. So I'm gonna go over Q2 and touch a little bit on year-to-date and then our new projections. So for Q2, that's historically been our best quarter, and it continues to be since it runs through the summer season. All utilities are doing better than budgeted, except for stormwater. Stormwater had a few larger expenses, including the cameraing at Pilot Town Village, CH Mason Way repair, and the cost of service study was hitting for September as well. Compared to last year, the operating revenues are up almost 2%, but more coming in through rates instead of developer payments. Operating expenses are up over 13%. Most of that increase is seen in our purchase power. That high of an increase in our expenses has resulted in an operating income decrease of about $500,000. Our non-operating revenues have increased just over $500,000, with most of that coming from impact fees and investments. And because of that non-operating increase, our bottom line is actually $11,000 more than last year. For our year-to-date, we continue to do better than budgeted. All utilities have a net income, and it's very comparable to last year for our year-to-date.
so Richard, you had questions?
Oh, Bob had questions.
Bob, I'm sorry.
Is your questions on the historic or the projections?
Well, your projection is now 22,790,000
Yes, so for projections,
and an operating income of 2,055,000.
yes.
Okay.
So projections, most of these are going to be based on year-to-date and remaining budget. Overall, it'll be an increase to all the utilities with a total net income increase of 1.2 million. A few items I wanted to point out. The industrial water and sewer has been much higher than budgeted, and that's mostly coming from DRBA. They have a new 2-inch water meter that I did not plan. And BB, their mechanical room account, is using all kinds of water. Other revenue for water is much higher. We are having record revenues from plumbing permits and meter sales. Our purchase power is high, which we knew that was going to happen. Professional contractual electric has been under budget, and I also accounted for the substation testing, which is actually biannual instead of annual, so I actually put in about $30,000 too much. Wastewater, we are getting the electrician credit, and our maintenance charges have not been too far from the Inframark budgeted amount, monthly amount, and our attorney and engineering fees are actually lower for our wastewater this year compared to last year. Our investments are making money, and we're having favorable market adjustments. There are no longer any interest payments on draw loans. That started in September. The state stopped that. And this month, we did transfer $1 million from our operating account to a money market account.
Okay. And our rate increase was, on the electric, was in May?
Yes.
Or effective when?
It went out on the May bills.
Okay, on the May bill. So you have 4 months in the first half, in the year to date. So your revenue on electric is up about 8.3, and it seems to be coming through also on the expense side, where your purchase power is up 9.4. That's more or less working the way you expect.
Yes.
I guess I got down to what you'll call line,
Are you on the year-to-date or the,
I'm on the year to date.
okay, go ahead.
Change in market value.
Yes.
Is that allocated to the electric, water, sewer, or is that just some pot?
It is.
How's that done?
It's allocated based on the percentage of money in the account. So each utility has a pot. So if we made $100,000 and 40% of the money is in electric, then 40,000 is going to go to electric.
Well, as I was reading this, what bothers me about that is it's really, I don't know if they're different pots. You said there are, but sort of adding it in after operating income with interest and dividends, interest expense, impact fees, grants, it's going to swing around an awful lot. It seems to me like investment performance ought to be another page in here that we can say, yes, we're doing well overall, or
For the Finance Committee, we are working on a different report to present to the board and different backup for that report, including how our reserves are doing and,
I mean, you're getting some statements. I think we could gin one up in the meantime.
yeah. And
And I'm sort of arguing to take it out of grant revenue and impact fees and other things, because it's just like, we got lucky this month or we didn't get lucky this month.
that would be why I would say to concentrate on line 20. That is our operating expenses and
I read
revenues.
that, but then I kept reading. So,
I believe,
It's still our revenues and expenses that we have to report.
I believe if I can remember this, is that number used to never be in there, and I believe Darren added it in. If I
Darren's
can
been gone a
remember.
long time.
And I think I think his idea was he wanted to show it for, at the time, it was doing very, very well, so he wanted to show it as income. And where do you put it on this sheet? And
It's revenue.
yeah,
It's non-operating revenue.
yeah.
If anything, just moving it to below the change in net assets, or, that doesn't make sense.
No, not below changing their assets. I was, I did a little calculation. The 78 divided by 203,000 divided by, and it doesn't exactly proportion. So I thought I'd ask.
What do you mean doesn't
It
proportion?
doesn't exactly proportion to the revenues.
So if you take the 174,000, you're saying total?
Well, I
And
mean, the
you,
calculation I did was 7 million as opposed to 12.363, what percentage that was as a part of 203. So that didn't make sense to me.
The proportions are based on the actual cash that we have in the account.
Okay, so I asked, so you said that. So what are they and how are they doing on a separate piece of paper?
Okay?
That's fair.
You know,
Is that something you want monthly, or would you like that quarterly? And I'm only saying that because we got our quarterly report from UVS.
I'm trying to convince the rest of the board that it'd be worth looking at, and I think quarterly would be fine. You know, because the way it's always been done is it's given to the investment advisors and so on, and our real responsibility is to say, yep, that's a good investment advisor, or this guy is not.
I think we can work on that.
yeah, I've always discounted that line.
Yeah,
and looking at it, because,
In
I
another way,
mean,
nobody reads it.
Arbitrary.
well, I mean, read, but with the market gyration, but it did help us to do some of the changes we've done over the years, like move money into the money market account, because we weren't earning enough. So I think your point is well taken.
Yeah, I was curious about, where the $100,000 came from that we put into money market. So I would assume a report like this would show that, like what
Yeah,
Bob is
what-
asking for.
What utility?
What utility
Yes.
came from? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You're talking about the $1 million transport?
No, we did 100,000. Well,
100,000.
we did, when we got the ARPA funds, we had it in the operating account. I moved that 900,000 to our
Yeah.
money market along with another 100,000. I think it came from electric.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can.
Okay, great.
I can do that.
thanks.
Okay. And then, I'm telling you all this good news that we're doing better than budgeted, but I just want to caution you guys for your optimism.
Turn the mics off.
That $1 million transfer that we did, including that the electric is still $250,000 under our reserve policy, and we have over $4 million in capital projects over the next 5 years. For our water, not counting the ARPA, we are right on for the reserve policy, so that's the only good news that I have for you in this report. We already have $117,000 in debt service payments, with about $400,000 coming from Canal Crossing and Water Tower. In addition to the Canal Crossing and Water Tower is another $10 million in water capital projects in the next 5 years. The wastewater is $700,000 short in the reserve policy. We already have $850,000 in debt service payments. The headworks will add about another $130,000. And then we have an additional $5.7 million in the next 5 years, with the wastewater treatment plant being the big question mark. And stormwater, we're $740,000 short on the reserve policy, with $875,000 coming in the next 5 years.
It's based off.
You put that on a
current-
piece of paper?
Yep,
That's current reserve policy as it's written today.
yes.
And that's been discussed with the finance committee on whether or not that reserve policy would be
And
adjusted.
that is updated as of the additional $1 million put in there.
And we dropped our reserve amount a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Only by $1 million because you took out a pollution policy instead of self-insuring yourself.
Okay.
And you also have a line of credit, but we haven't been calculating the line of credit as a reserve policy item.
Any other questions for Kim? Thank you.
Tom, you need to approve the
Oh.
treasurer's report. I would hold off on the minutes.
Yeah, minutes. All right, do we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, Inframark.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Jeff.
So for the Headworks project, We are essentially completely done. The crew was on site this week to install the last bit of grading that was on order.
Oh, okay, great.
So that is completely done. The electric manhole drain for the stormwater was done last month. The BPW water crew came out and took care of that. Don't look up. The generator situation at 4, we did get a quote for a new generator as well as 2 different bypass pumps. We're currently looking at an option with GMB of upgrading to a 3-pump system with the generator and what impact that would have on future flows. We did install the isolation valves for the Kubota membranes last month so that we can isolate the cleaning cycles to better affect that. We've completed cleanings, the semi-annual cleanings on trains 1, 2, and 3. We did find an issue with train 4. The gate is not sealing properly, so we're not able to keep the influent completely out of the train. So we're gonna have to drain the tanks down and get down in there and see if what's causing the seal to fail before we'll be able to repair that and then close it off to do the cleaning for train 4.
Do we have any prior experience with that?
We've not dealt with it, to my knowledge.
I think that's the first time I've heard of it. Okay.
After installation of the isolation valves in the Kubota, we also did the Kubota cleanings as recommended by the rep.
So just going back to train 4.
Yes.
When is that scheduled for, and is that putting us into any concerns with the cleaning of train 4?
Not with the cleaning of train 4, so what we're going to have to do is the way that that's set up, we're going to have to pump down the EQ tank to about 2 foot, shut the county flow off for the day, and then we're going to have to completely stop production and isolate all 4 trains. The trench coming into the trains, we can only isolate it down to where we have to shut off all 4 trains and then drain that down before we can get down and assess the situation on train 4.
How much time do you anticipate that taking?
A few hours. It shouldn't take too long. Once we pump it down and we isolate the trains, we can probably pump it down within an hour, hour and a half.
Do you have any idea what the issue is?
We do not at the moment, no. We haven't been able to get down there and see. We can see from the train side, but there's not a whole lot to see.
It's not something you can fix readily.
No, we're gonna have to get some photographs and then start back up, and then once we have the pictures, and we're also looking to have one of the GMB reps on site also to try to take a look at it if possible.
Can we do a temporary seal arrangement so we could keep train 4 out of service to do the cleaning?
We discussed that. I just think it would be difficult due to the depth to try to keep that flow out of there. That channel is probably about 12 to 14 foot deep. To try to isolate that water out would be rather difficult.
Nuclear grade duct tape?
So we're going to drain down and get an assessment, get photographs, take a look at things, and then we're gonna go from there.
Do you have a plan on when to do that?
We were hoping to do it this week, but we had some pump station issues.
So it's near term?
Yes, very near. In regards to the EQ tank, I believe I mentioned to Matt last meeting that we were looking to have a clean out done. We did receive a quote from CES. That's going to be about $33,000. And in regards to the 5-ton crane, we just confirmed that will be getting done Tuesday through Thursday of next week. So.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You've got the pump stations on here again, and I've become fixated on them. From your last time, there were 2 of them that you said were 9 out of 10. That meant serious trouble.
Yes.
Can we get them on the project list somehow? I mean,
We are working on that. We're also working on getting the list. I sent some of the quotes to Austin, but I'm trying to get multiple quotes from different vendors for replacement pumps, which I'm waiting on now for the second vendor.
Looking at the notes from last time, there were pump station 15, 17, 5, and 19 that were, you rated 6 or worse.
Yes.
So
So we did have a meeting last week with GMB and looked at some of those stations, including 5, about the potential of how to try to protect the equipment moving forward, what we would need to do to protect the electrical, so that if we had a flood or a massive rain event, that once that subsided, we would be able to continue from that point.
So I think we're going to put that on the next agenda, right, Austin? For a discussion with the board on pump station upgrades, pump station protection.
No, you won't have, we won't have something to you by then. I mean, we talked about pump station 4 specifically because of the generator, sizing the generator with the potential of either 2 larger pumps or 3 smaller pumps.
Well, are we prepared to discuss the control panel issues and elevations?
No, that work is all being done as part of GMB's, through the grant that we got $250,000 for.
Yeah, I think at the next meeting, we do want to bring the rest of the board up to,
Wait, the project just started. That's the only reason why I'm saying, I mean, it's up to you if you want to start that, but I don't know how far GMB's got.
I mean, we can provide an update, but we won't be ready to provide.
I wasn't looking for a final one, but I think it's important for the rest of the board to understand. So why don't we put that on the next agenda to bring the board up to speed? Because I do hear what you're saying, Bob, but it's a more complex issue than,
I'm sure it is, and I know nothing about it except that 9 out of 10 sort of says, uh-oh. That's a technical term.
I think there's another expression we use in the trade, but I can't say that in public.
Well,
I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
On the headworks,
Yes.
which is now showing green,
Yes.
is it too early to see, make an evaluation of how better it is now working for the system? Or what should we be expecting now that that is in the green, like everything else?
So currently, I think we're seeing better treatment with the Pistogrid up and running and the screens not having, we found multiple holes in the old screens, so we were getting a lot more solids passing through. We're not seeing that. The trains seem to be performing better than they were, and I anticipate that that's going to increase.
You'll see it at the next cleaning, Richard.
Yeah.
Next time they pull the membranes to clean them, you'll be able to tell.
That's, I was going to ask a question about to what does Inframark attribute the better performance, the steadier performance we're seeing on all 4 trains? And maybe that's part of it, but maybe it's also been a learning curve. I don't know.
I would say that I would attribute most of that to a increased understanding of the cleaning process and how that should be handled. And we've been more consistent in our chemical cleanings and how we do that. We've also tweaked the way we do that. We drain the train multiple times now to try to get as many solids out as possible before we introduce the chemicals. So we've just gotten better performance out of them.
And a lot of that's been site visits, talking with others that use MBR facilities and seeing what they do differently than what we do. And we're actually going to another plant on Friday to see how they operate theirs, because everybody loves them.
Which one is on Friday?
Cox Creek. Cox Creek.
Yeah, Cox Creek, it's right below the Key Bridge,
Okay.
next to the power plant.
I also wondered, is Sussex County now doing the hauling for the liquid sludge?
No.
No?
Sussex County's got some other issues right now, so they're not doing that yet.
We're just paying mileage right now for Clean Delaware to haul. we don't pay a treatment charge.
Seems like
It's-
Sussex should be reimbursing us for that.
When I spoke to Sussex County, they've been having issues with drivers, and they're also having issues with one of their plants currently. Any
All
other
right.
questions?
Thank you very much.
I have one on the next page.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The graph on the top,
What page are you on?
We page,
I'm on page 4.
The influent versus precipitation trend?
Yeah, we've just had 3 months plus of no rain. And I'm sort of curious, is there anything we can learn from that 3 months of no rain at all? And it looks like our treatment volume is down a little bit, even though it was the season. And then I started to go back, but I fell off the left side of the chart, a year back. And so I'm just really asking a question of, if you had more data going back, does this 3 months period teach us anything? Do we know more than we?
actually, if you go back and you look at the prior year, or the prior 2 years, we've been not as bad as this year, but we've had the same exact precipitation issues post 4th of July through the beginning of hurricane season. So it's becoming the new norm of it don't rain in Delaware in July, August, and September.
Well, that's fine, but does it teach us anything about our infiltration or anything else?
I think there's a correlation between high rain events and high flow events, which is an I&I question. And we've talked about like the Alaska Avenue project, lining that sewer main that goes through the marsh. Because if there's any ability through a terracotta pipe to get, whether it be through rainwater or through just marsh water or influence from the marsh, that's one of the top areas. Obviously, wherever you have a high water table. And then your manholes, which all of our new manholes are sealed. All of our older manholes have the salad bowls. And then we did smoke testing a while back, but there may be some instances where you have somebody that is using a sump pump and pumping it into their sewer system, which is illegal.
Yeah, but it just seems like there's.
Yeah, just look at the correlation between the green and
Wasn't
the blue.
what I would have expected in the high season.
Yeah. Jeff, did Kubota give you a price on the replacement of the filters?
No, but I can get a quote from them if we'd like that.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for Jeff? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And good work on the headworks.
I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the page saturated in green.
It'll look significantly better on the 6th. You'll enjoy it.
All right, moving on. Item 5. Oh, that would be me. Me. First, I think the most important thing right now is we want to pay tribute to Ted Becker and his years or decades of service to both the city and to making Lewes what it is. The reason for the downtown Lewes being the draw that it is significantly contributable to Ted Becker's efforts. That's the reason why you don't see real estate agents, t-shirt shops in any of Ted's properties. So he could have gotten much more, but he felt the need to make the area a draw. We'd also like to send out regards to Joe Stewart, his long-term partner. This is a major loss for Joe, and they're trying to pull together the pieces of how to best operate the organization. So Saturday is the tribute to Ted. I know there's been some disruption because we had planned on doing hazardous waste take-back day that day, but I think this takes priority over that. The board wants to be represented at the celebration of life, and the citizenry, I think, is going to be out. Anne-Marie, God. Oh, I'm sorry.
Wrong brain.
The brain, she not so good. Ellen Lorraine, do you have an expectation of count?
Just a lot of people.
Okay. So for those of you who couldn't hear, a lot of people. But I think there's going to be a significant turnout. The governor's coming down, and many others political. So we look forward to seeing you all there. We apologize for the disruption of the hazardous waste take-back day. There's too little time in the remaining year to really reschedule it before the weather becomes inclement. So we'll see everyone in the spring.
And please don't throw your hazardous waste in the trash in the meantime.
Yes. Oh, and just the city will, the police department will continue with the National Drug Take-Back Day, which is a national event. So takes far less staff, and the police department will, So on the meeting side, we've met with Sussex County on the wastewater treatment plant issues several times. We had a joint BPW city executive session. We went to the last Rehoboth Beach Commissioners Workshop, and the next one is scheduled for November 4th. Day before Election Day. And then the Rehoboth Beach Commissioners will be meeting on the 15th to take a yay or nay on whether to proceed with an agreement with us. We had a strategic planning workshop, which, the public was invited to attend, attended mayor and city council, the leadership meeting with Andrew and Ellen Lorraine. And I met with the president of the Delaware chapter of the Sierra Club to get his input into both issues that affect the BPW and their stance on several other positions. So I'm going to leave it to Austin to give an update on the canal crossing in his report, and Donovan Smith. Done?
Okay. So Donovan Smith, paving's done. I believe speed bumps is really the last stuff. Any punch list items. We'll have our normal first Wednesday of the month meeting here at 10 a.m. And then we would leave here and go do a walkthrough of Donovan Smith. I've already talked with the owner and his attorney to make sure they are aware, because there's infrastructure that they will be accepting, or however they deal with ownership internal. So they had said that they would be there, or at least his attorney has said he would be there, and then they would coordinate with staff of Mr. Burnham's and the property owner to make sure that they have presence.
So it's done then?
all intents and purposes, everybody's hooked up, the roads are paved, the Del Dot work is done, and we'll do the walkthrough with punch list items that may come up. So pretty much,
Final restoration.
yeah.
So I just want to really commend everyone that was involved in Donovan Smith, GMB, the city, the BPW, our contractors. This was a long-term effort to get potable water and take their sewage out of septic systems, or actually, they weren't even septic systems, they were pump stations or pump wells, so that the people in Donovan Smith now have drinkable water and acceptable sewage systems. It was a long time, and the people deserved it.
Right thing to do.
Yeah.
So we'll have that close out, that final walkthrough, after the meeting that we have with the progress meeting. Canal Crossing, we're waiting on one agency approval to start the drill. That is the Army Corps of Engineers. They have everything they need, and I believe they finished their public, I think it was their public publication or advertisement. And they are working on finalizing their review. They know that this is a emergency project for us. They also know that this is the last agency approval. Teal is working with the with Spring. The equipment is on site for the pipe fusing and moving the pipe around, which is a big front end loader. The pipe has arrived. They started moving the pipe and putting all of the guide rails in for the fusing. I don't know if they've started fusing pipe yet. I know that they want to start this weekend or possibly later this week.
But they hadn't as of this.
Yeah.
They had a lot of pipe laid out in the cradles.
Yeah.
I did not go back to see if they were fusing yet, though.
So they're going to fuse in the Del Dot right away, and they will be drilling from the opposite side than originally was scoped. So they were going to actually drill from the town side, and we've reversed that in talking with a contractor, which is very beneficial from a noise perspective. And so that work is slated to start on the 4th, pending final agency approval and permit in hand from Army Corps of Engineer. So drilling would start on the 4th, and then I believe they said 4 to 6 weeks on the drill. Am I right with that? Is that what Spring came back with? I think I'm right. Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks is what they would be there, and then Teal wants to work conjointly so that the work that's being done, they're going to work backwards, but they're going to do a tap in Savannah Road, and then it's an insert valve, and then they're going to come and work backwards on American Legion, and then hopefully when the drill's done, they'll be able to make final connection on American Legion Road, and the priority is to have the pipe up and running, bacteria tested, and then work towards final restoration.
So I would encourage anyone who's interested to go down. The bike trail is still open right now. The bike trail at the end by Gill's Neck will be closed when they start drilling at all?
No, it will not. The only time that it will be closed is when we have to change. So when you come to that concrete half circle,
Right.
we actually have to, as per Del Dot, we worked with it and they have their design.
Just
We're doing an
yeah.
S curve to push the bike path farther towards the neighboring property. Del Dot's concern was line of sight. As you come up there, you have a big line of trees and hedgerows that you can't see around the corner on. And since you're entering traffic, it's one of the reasons why they wanted 100 feet cleared as much as possible coming up to that area anyway. And then obviously I mentioned we'll work with the city on what that final restoration looks like. As part of this contract, it's just going to be graded out and the grass is going to be planted, but the question is what happens after the fact, and that's the coordination with the city. It's not going to be the time or the place in the middle of the winter to start working on that. We also discussed with the city about putting a water service in for whatever is put there or whatever that final restoration looks like. And we're not making any promises, but we're in discussions on some sort of effort to put almost like a water filling station in right where that half circle is. So if we're going to put a tap in with a yard hydrant, we talked about, you know, where on the trail do you have a water bottle fill station? So we're going to work with the city to see if that's something that, whether DelDOT would coordinate that, whether the city would coordinate that. So
this is the joint effort of the replacement project. So the city's agreed to take on the trees, and we've agreed to take on providing a fill station or a hydrant to be able to water the trees, because otherwise there's no real access to water on that stretch. And Sussex Tree accidentally removed trees on the other side, and they're going to make good on replacing those trees.
I believe they've already, or they will be talking with the city on that.
So it's good news and bad news. Most of those trees were in the same condition as the other ones, overgrown. So we can reestablish a proper tree line without the invasive vines on them.
Going down through my list, on the pump station list that Inframark had brought up, there were a couple of them that said that they didn't have water services or water services weren't working. 2 of the water service, PS4 and PS3, were replaced. The pump station at Canary Creek, they never installed a water service when it was built. So we're discussing just tapping that water service and putting a yard hydrant in so that they have it. We met with Rehoboth Beach staff, looking to be back on the agenda on November 4th. Sent our initial kind of press release to Bill on our lead and copper submission, but we'll be sending out more formal letters, I would say in the next week or two. They have to be out by November 16th, which basically classifies individuals, those that are known on both sides and are not lead, copper, or galvanized. That's not an issue. There would be no letter sent. It's those that are either unknown, and unknown is classified as either side, both private and public side. Known lead or known galvanized. Do I have that right? No matter which side. So those that have either unknown lead or galvanized would receive a letter, and it talks about, it goes through everything related to the program. I believe the updated lead and copper rule, which was posted, I think it was October 8th, talked about 3 years to establish your inventory. There's kind of a monumental effort here, because not only do we have to identify our side, we have to identify private side. So you have 3 years to go through and build your inventory out, and then you would have 10 years to replace. So that's kind of the framework, 3 and then 10.
And you mentioned you're going to try to help people identify their pipe.
So we're coming up with what that looks like, because we've never been involved in anything like this before. I believe what we're working on is putting an email address that people can reach out to, and then we will work on scheduling times where people can come to individuals' homes and try to assist, whether that be through our equipment or just physically coming in and seeing if they can see it coming through the foundation wall. So it's a process. You know, everybody in the entire country is working through it.
Well, I had a call from a person on the beach side, and they had torn down an older house and built a new house, a very nice house, maybe 10 years ago or so. And she didn't know what she had. She assumed that they'd replaced the service. There's no crawl space or anything. Of course, the pipe coming into the house is plastic.
Yep.
And she assumes that it's plastic. From there, they wouldn't use the old pipe. So what would you do in a case like that? Do you still have to confirm it?
Just reach out, and our staff will take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've met people also who either have encapsulated basements,
Yeah.
so they can't see it. And I talked to do the same thing. They know the services were replaced in the 1990s, and I said to them, well, there was no lead or copper pipes used at that point.
You have to provide proof, you have to provide pictures, visual inspection. There's a whole list that you have to categorize by. So that's why I said I just reach out to our staff and we'll work through that.
Okay.
Like we mentioned earlier, we're going to be visiting Cox Creek, Robin and I, with Inframark staff on Friday, just to watch and see how they process on the MBR side. We continue to meet with the city on grant funding. Amy and city staff through Ellen Lorraine have been great. I think even though it's not a formalized committee and it's not recognized through a public meeting, it's very beneficial to put all the minds together. We have Tim on our side to work through kind of what opportunities are out there, what we can do conjointly between the two entities, and the powerfulness of having two entities from the same municipality working on some grant opportunities. So we're going to continue to truck through those. And I feel like there's a lot of positiveness that's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that is that Amy has been instrumental in so many areas and is really helping the two organizations work together.
Thank you.
Don't let it go to your head, though.
The last thing that I just wanted to mention, and I didn't know if Ben was going to be here or not, but we give Ben our best wishes as he's getting, this must be the month of everybody getting married. Ben is getting married on Saturday. Yeah. So.
And congratulate Charlie.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I forgot to mention. Sorry, Charlie. Yeah, we also want to congratulate Charlie because Charlie. Yeah. Charlie was named as president, I believe president and CEO. Yes. George Miles and Bureau.
Oh.
So.
So when's the retirement party?
The countdown's on now, that's good. Could I add something?
Yeah.
Just because I know you and I have been working on it.
Not without the microphone.
So we actually submitted design grants for Hornkill Avenue and for the 4th Street Park Avenue project through Office of Drinking Water, and we received draft approval of those and draft agreements that are now in Mike's hands to review. On the 4th Street project, it's a $120,000 grant for the water design, and on Hornkill, it's $17,000 grant that we're getting towards the water design. The sewer side in DNREC, they used to for a very long time give design grants, but now they're specific to planning grants, so we can't get the same thing through on the sewer side, but we're getting significant amount of grant money from the state for the design of those two projects.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you much. Moving on. A resolution of the Board of Directors the City of Lewes for amending the compilation of policies regarding water meters. So I think first we need a motion to read by title only.
Well, I was going to provide a little context to this before, because I know when we had brought this forward, you had specifically asked some questions. So the purpose of this is that our current policy is very vague, and it doesn't talk about when we do projects, or for example, when somebody goes to settlement, and we have meters that are in basements, we want those moved out. And sometimes during projects, there'll be a meter pit already installed. Savannah Road, that was a case. But what we're trying to do is eliminate water meters that are inside the house that we have to access or replace from time to time and put them out closer to the road. This adds a lot more clarity to that. The difference between this time and the previous time we came to you is that Mike has laid eyes on this. And so what's before you today is the version where Mike has also laid eyes on what the staff comments are. And that is truly what the difference is between the two times that it's come before you.
So my only comment on it is I would like to see ERT spelled out the first time and then abbreviated. I mean, while those of us who love acronyms.
Encoder, receiver, transmitter, right?
Yes.
Just round numbers. How much, if I have a I'm a person who has an inside water meter and now I'm gonna have an outside water meter. How much money is that? Whether I'm closing or not closing?
It really depends on where. So if you're on 4th Street and you have 3 feet between the front of your house going into basically from the back sidewalk to the front of the house, it's a little bit more of a challenge. If you have, 50 or 60 or 75 feet, it's a different animal. So if you have
What
to
are
buy a
those two
meter.
numbers?
So if you have to buy a pit's like $600 or $700 right now, because our policy is, cost plus, and then whatever it costs for your plumber. And like I said, each case is different.
Yeah, I mean, if you've only got a
Plumbers don't get
sidewalk,
organized in the ground for less than 1,500 or so?
Yeah, I mean, we're not the only ones that are
No,
battling.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to understand this from a homeowner's
I would say it's a minimum of $2,500.
but if you have to put it in the sidewalk, then you got the sidewalk repair.
So if you're somebody and the city was redoing a street, it's a good time to do it
Yes.
while that happens.
My understanding is on Politown Road, they discussed that. When they were going through design, I would say that if we were doing the 4th Street project and the Park Street or the Park Road project, we would do something very similar to where we would facilitate putting a pit in, and regardless of how the whole metrics of how that's paid goes and gets figured out, we would facilitate that being moved out at that time.
But you'd probably be saying that to that person on 4th Street or whatever, you get a bill for 600 plus some plumbing.
We would have
With
to work
this.
out what that looks like, but yes, because it would be unit cost on how we would go through it, because we would be supplying the meter pits, because you have to buy meter pits through us. It's cases, it's not a cut and dry case by case.
I'm just trying to understand the implication.
But it's in the 1,000 range, so it's not a service line replacement. It's not.
I believe the way that it's written is that our current policy, without making any revisions, talks about it being outside and at finished grade. The clarity we're adding is what constitutes the need to move it from inside to outside. That's the clarity we wanted to add in this. And then we talked about access, because right now we really don't have anything that says, oh, you need to have a minimum of, because people bury them and put plants over top of them all the time. Then you have issues with reading. Same. Anything you would add, Ron?
All right, we have a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Hold on. I think it's
Thank you.
7, resolution number 24-007, a resolution of the Board of Directors, Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes amending its compilation of policies regarding water meters. Mr. President, resolution number 24-007 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
All right. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
With the
With the addition.
one addition. Thank you. Okay, next item is the biannual review review of water impact fee.
So this was a request when I was actually out for paternity leave. And so I worked internally between Robin and Kim. And the real simple way of doing this is I used the cost of living adjustment from when we did the last adjustment, which actually was December of 2023's number. So it would have been December of 2023 to, I believe, August of 24 was when that data was available. So the difference between then and now, off of that data, was 2.62%. Now, we talked internally, I don't know what the feeling of the board is. We've made a pretty significant jump based off not changing a lot of these for about 20 years plus. I don't think that as of right now, 6 months in, there's a need to raise that impact fee by 2.62%. I feel like looking at it from a year, seeing what the data looks like for at least a year, and then kind of pivoting on where we want to go makes more sense. But this is what I'm assuming you guys were after as far as what you wanted to see.
Yeah, and I think just to reinforce, since we did do a major impact fee adjustment, we need to let things settle down for a little bit, and then at the 1 year point, evaluate if we want to do another increase and not just the CPI. So, Kim, based upon our run rate on impact fees, foregoing the CPI, how much, or including the CPI, whichever one, how much is that CPI worth?
Can you reword that for me?
Yeah, are you just saying what the delta is?
Yeah, what's the delta between if we increase it by the CPI based upon our run rate of impact fees?
Yeah, it's about $100 for the 5/8 and 1 inch.
No, I meant
but-
in total.
But each month is very different. Sometimes we'll have 40 impact fees, sometimes we'll have 5.
Most developers are they'll pay for 10 or 15 impact fees at a time, depending on what development it is.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking for, a 1 year snapshot. What's our impact fee? And we can just multiply it then by the 2.61.
Yeah, we can look at
I can
it,
tell you that. I can get you that information.
but the only difference is you're not gonna have the same number next year, so it's gonna,
No.
it'd be arbitrary.
I just want the board to have a
Yeah.
feel for,
How much you're foregoing.
yeah, I don't think it's significant. But
We'll take a look.
okay. In that case, do we defer this till next meeting?
Completely
Or
up to you
is
guys.
everyone okay with,
Let's defer it
okay,
rather than make a decision one way or the other, because in the, recalculation or looking at it may yield additional information that's helpful in guiding a decision.
Agree.
so defer to next meeting. And is it, all I'm really looking for is a gross, what was our run rate last year, and what is that times 2.61%? All right, moving on. Item 9, open forum, general discussion of wastewater treatment log plan. I think I presented that all at the beginning, unless there's any other questions.
That's fine. Standing item, so.
Yeah. Item 10. Open forum, general discussion on setting a date for our November, December meeting. Typically, we combine the November and December meeting, but we have a lot of other special projects. So I think the concept here is to combine the regular November, December meeting and then hold several special, just to cover like the award of the water tower and anything else that came up.
The goal is to have one joint November, December meeting, and then we'll have at least one special meeting, which would be to award the contract for the water tower, but depending on the bids.
And then if we needed another special one, but they would be short and concise.
So I'm gonna throw out a date of December 11th.
December 11?
December 11th.
I have a conflict, but I can have coverage, so don't plan around me.
Should we, up to you guys if you want to keep it on Wednesday, because you're already doing a combined meeting, so. It's completely up to you. You can do it any day of the week, but
You're switching a day or two doesn't help you.
No, the December 11th specifically actually is the only day that I have conflict.
if you want to, you
Picked
can.
well there, Austin.
So do we want max or do we want? I mean, let's take a vote here. All those in favor of max?
Well, I don't think, switching it to another day makes a big difference because you're not interrupting anybody's schedule, as far as I can tell.
Thursday the 12th?
It's good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the only thing.
We're doing the 12th?
We're gonna shoot for the 12th.
Okay.
Tentatively, pending a room date.
So it was on December 25th. I don't know why we just can't hold it then, but
Well,
Yeah, 4 o'clock too. Oh, well, I got you. All right, we'll check on that.
Okay.
we don't want it on Friday the 13th, though.
No, it's bad juju.
hey, actually, the 11th is the unlucky number in Italian, just for your information.
Well, we
Oh,
don't
no,
have
excuse me, the 17th. That's the day was going on.
Oh, geez.
Okay. We'll check for the 12th. If not, then we'll poll the board, see which day works.
Moving on, open forum general discussion on approving the DWSRF grant for emerging contaminants. Austin?
Again, I think we should use the full names of things like this for, particularly on agendas, so people don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we can. That's perfectly fine.
Because I think a lot of people wouldn't know what that is.
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
drinking water state revolving fund.
Yeah.
There was a testimony.
So just for context, we applied last July, I think, for, what's the total amount, Charlie? 414.5 for emerging contaminant money. So this had to do before anything was passed regarding PFAS. So we applied, and it took about a year to hear back, and we ended up following back up. We were awarded the funds, and so what's before you is the agreement, or approving us to move forward with executing the agreement. And then there's obviously a process. This is a little bit different because it's looking more on the federal side. So it's not, even though it's coming through and being bundled through the drinking water SRF through the state, more of the requirements are a federal requirement, so a lot more like Davis-Bacon wage rates. So it's just something that we'll have to keep in the back of our mind. But before you is essentially the grant agreement that basically allows us to secure those funds and then start working on the project.
There are so many strings attached to this. Do we have a system to track them all so we don't miss them?
It will be new for us. That's the simple way to put it. But it's, when you go through grants, it's a learning experience. And, we don't want to constrain ourselves to only looking at grants that go through drinking water SRF, and this opportunity came up. I think that it hits a lot of opportunities for us to look at, drilling deeper versus treating for PFAS, looking at various treatments, GAC, reverse osmosis, and then ultimately coming up with and working towards the design, whether that be drilling deeper or putting into place, GAC and all that stuff.
And no, I think it's great. I just worry about missing some of the reporting deadlines and things like that, and worry that we don't want to have the money pulled back because we've missed something.
I mean, I see Barbara's point, and I think we maybe have to assign that or bring someone up in that keeps us on the right side.
So we've done a lot. We've done some shifting internally with roles and responsibilities, and I think between Kim and Jen, I think we'll be able to track that and not putting more on Kim's plate, but then we also have Sharon who has the special project side. So I think from a group perspective, we'll be able to handle it, but it will be new and it will allow us to learn through this process too. That's it. You have to start somewhere. Got to start somewhere.
Well, Sharon's not on now, so we can put it all on her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon.
1, 2, 3, got it.
Okay,
So we need a motion? I'll move.
I don't think we need a motion.
don't?
This-
Yeah.
To sign something, yeah.
Okay. Oh, because we're approving the law.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, made a
I'll
motion?
make the motion that we approve.
Second, please.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
On this one, just so the minutes reflect, just to confirm, there are none opposed.
I'm sorry, yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Open forum general discussion on outside city limits utility plan escrow policy. Austin and Mike?
This is another one we've been working on. So a good example of this is when, and we've very much clarified it, when it's an in-city property that's going through any sort of review process, they actually set up an escrow with the city for the review. Once it's finished with the review and it goes through the development agreement, then it shifts and the escrow gets set up with us. The difference here is when you have an outside city property, a lot of that review is up front and it takes some time to review, whether it be a sewer plan, a water plan. So what this is doing is setting up a process to where instead of receiving an invoice and billing the developer right away, we would be having some sort of agreement where the developer would sign, we would sign, and then we would establish an escrow based off the estimated review fees. It's just a practice so that we would hold an escrow account and we would be able to draw from that escrow account as we receive invoices for the review.
So we have a motion to approve, have the resolution read by title only.
So moved.
Are we going to discuss it after the motion? Okay, second.
Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 24-008, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes amending its compilation of policies regarding escrow standards for plan review for out-of-city utility extensions. Mr. President, resolution number 24-008 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption. And my recommendation here is to take a motion to approve second and then discussion.
Yeah. Oh, a motion to approve? Approve. And then, okay, I'm sorry. So do you have a motion? A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now discussion?
Line 58. I wondered about why we were giving people who are late the lesser of two interest rates, 8% or maximum annual permitted by law.
I'm smirking because Richard and I had this conversation.
It applies to many things.
Right. So the short answer is you can only charge the maximum legal rate of interest. And so if what that amount has been set is trying to gauge what is a reasonable amount of interest that is reasonably expected to not exceed the maximum limit. But of course, if you do have the maximum limit, you can't charge above that. So it's lesser because it has to be under the maximum legal limit.
So if the limit was by the law 6%, we could not legally charge
Too
it.
late.
That's why it's the lesser.
But why not just take the 8% out and do the maximum amount permitted by law?
Well, because if the maximum, it becomes an administrative question. And so in terms of trying to follow and identify what the maximum rate of interest is each time, it becomes an administrative burden. And so, but when you look historically, 8% is kind of right there. There are some years where the gap, just by nature of what that year is higher, but for the most part, 8% is pretty safe and a reasonable amount. And again, keep in mind that I'll say two things on what this is setting. The first point is that you want it to be enough to incentivize, but again, the idea here is not necessarily, that percentage isn't to make money, it's to incentivize payment. That's the first point. The second point is really for the purposes here. Keep in mind that what the rest of this language provides is that you take the estimate of your review fees, and then 150% is what you're holding in escrow. So if you do your estimate correctly, you're not going to have to chase back amount, and you're not going to have to charge. So it's put in there as kind of an additional component, but really the important part is doing your estimate correctly of what you're taking 150%.
And enforcing that when it falls to 5,000.
Correct.
Getting it replenished.
That's right.
And it gives us more meat here because we've told them we're going to stop work on anything.
Right,
So,
did
so
see
we
that.
have, I mean, I think that's the real hammer that I see in this.
But it's long story short, it's a great question, and this is exactly what Richard and I talked about. But if you're going to name a number, the recommendation is to name a number, and the recommendation is to name that number that is reasonable to not exceed the maximum rate of interest, which is why it's 8%, which is why it's named. And then on the whole, that's what the recommendation is.
Thank you.
All right, so on the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5, no abstention. Okay.
You saw.
Open forum, general discussion by the board to award the elevated storage tank.
It's just a
Contract.
special board meeting to hold a special
I
board.
was gonna say,
Charlie, what are we thinking
I'm sorry.
date-wise?
So bids are up in November
4th?
there's so much happening on November 4th.
Well, you wouldn't, I mean, you're,
So the bids are open November 4th.
because remember, we have to compare 750 to $1 million too.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking that it's a little bit of an unusual contract with the elevated storage tank that we might want to take a few extra days to review the proposals.
When are you
And
back,
when is
Mike?
your,
Don't schedule this one around me, I don't get coverage.
yeah, okay.
Are you going to this, Mike?
11th. I would say, and what day is the 4th? That's a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, something like 11th, 14th, 15th, maybe that Thursday, Friday. Give us 10 days or a little less, or maybe even that next Monday.
Oh, no, you might go back to the 19th.
I'm back on the 19th, so.
First day back, have to do this.
The 14th doesn't work, well, unless it was in the morning.
Let me backtrack a little bit. You're using the ARPA funds, right? And we need to
Yes.
allocate them directly to this contract. So
Yes.
once you guys approve it, assuming everything works out and you approve it,
Contract.
then it's contract time, and that takes a couple weeks. So any of those dates would still work before, so that you would be contracted, it has to be before the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
contractually obligated.
so I think those dates we're talking about, whether it be the 14th, 15th, 19th, 20th, would all work.
So I'm okay Monday, the morning of the 14th and the 15th.
You're on the wrong month.
Yeah, November.
Yes,
Yeah, you're not,
Thursday.
there is no Monday the 14th.
I said morning of the 14th.
Oh, I thought you said Monday.
I corrected myself.
Maybe we go with Friday the 13th.
I like that, except there is no Friday the
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 14th in the morning.
We have DMAC.
We have the,
Oh.
yep.
Any way to do the, I know it's pushing
15th?
it up.
I would like,
13th in the morning.
how about the 19th or the 20th? I'm afraid that those bids are gonna come in and we might need some time to contact some people and references and all that.
You would do the 19th?
Well, actually, the 18th would be better.
What day's the 18th?
Or the 19th in the afternoon.
Yeah, 18th is fine, or 19th is fine.
18th is good
18th?
in the afternoon. Oh,
What about the 19th? Do we have any issues with the 19th?
we had talked about doing a workshop on the 18th, but we're not?
No.
Okay, so.
It would have to
19th
be
is okay.
anything after, anything afternoon works for me.
So like if I were to say 1 on the
Yeah.
19th? Yeah.
And we could do this in the upstairs.
No, we'll be down.
Downstairs.
It's gonna be a little smaller. So we're gonna have to have it here probably.
We'll figure the details out, and if we need to, we'll pull the board again.
1,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
in my house.
Okay.
Y'all just wanted me there.
Yeah. We actually thought, where would Mike want to be on the day he comes back from a 17-day excursion
Is that where,
They were just.
I didn't know why you were.
through Asia? I mean, where else would you want to be?
Yeah, he'll be real sharp.
I feel like he will probably attend virtually.
All right, moving on. Open forum discussion on request from Excelcare at Lewes, the old Breakwater Village, to consider payment options for electric service.
So I'm going to give as much details of this as possible. I know Chris is online as well. So I'm not going to butcher this. I think it's Excelcare is the individuals that purchased Harbor Healthcare. And so when you go through that purchase process, you have to post a deposit that's equal to, I think it's a percentage of the historic bills for the facility. And so that deposit on this account was $27,570. Excelcare came back and made the request, which we've never had happen again. This is the reason why it's back before you, to take the deposit amount and split it into 6 equal payments. And, you know, obviously they had put in there that I think they're talking from a financial affordability piece of being able to do what they're trying to do. We wanted to bring it back, have them make a formal request. The only time that we've ever broken payments out is for impact fees, which we have a separate policy on. We did it for Roz. I believe we did it for the Ritter property when we went through that. I don't think that I know of, we've ever done it for a deposit. So this request is before you. It's new, it's one-off. It doesn't really fit into anything that we have as far as like the electric tariff.
Explain how this is calculated to start with.
It's just it looks at your historical bills.
What-
I believe, am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
That's an ordinance of ours? I mean,
It's within the tariff,
Yes.
in the tariff.
yes. It looks at your historical usage, because that's the customer you are,
Actually, it's an
and they get it back.
It's an
Yeah.
advance payment.
Correct, we hold that payment until the,
Electric bill.
Oh,
correct, yeah, all we do is hold the payment,
so this is the advance.
yeah,
And then after month one,
no. On a commercial account, you hold it to the very end, until they were to leave, and then they give that payment back. I think I have that right,
Correct, and we do pay interest on payments.
yes.
So is that a 1 month bill or 6 months or what? I missed
I
what you
can't
said.
remember what,
I'd have to go back.
yeah,
and look.
it's a percentage of a year's worth of bills.
that are running out.
Again, it's the existing electric tariff, which we've discussed going through and updating, but
So that upfront payment in one lump sum that doesn't get returned until the end of their,
correct, when they leave our service
Leave.
territory, then they would be paid that plus interest.
plus interest that is staying within that account.
Correct. Remember, your cash reserve policy, you need to hold 100% of customer deposits.
Okay, so we are in effect being paid
It's a secure, it's just like an escrow account.
to, on a lump sum basis, over time, it builds up. On an interim payment basis, does that give us less of a return? The interest amount would be less because it is over smaller pieces.
It'll be a very small amount,
Yeah.
yeah, but
And should we be capturing that if we agree to extend the payments?
Well, we'd have to change the tariffs
That-
to do it.
Where have we done this before?
we've never done this.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, do we get the interest or do they?
They get the interest.
it goes into our reserve or our investment, I should say, because we have to hold 100% in our reserve. And then we pay them interest if we're holding their deposit more than 12 months. So that also goes for consumers, just residential.
So we don't get anything out of this ourselves. We just have to manage the money.
It's
Yeah.
like an escrow account. You're
It's to
not
protect
getting
us
Yeah, it's
against,
protected, yep.
if they default on their
Exactly.
payments, this is the funds for that.
Correct.
It's a security deposit.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about how much of our reserves is tied up in, or is committed, like to escrow
About
accounts.
115,000 in deposits
All right.
currently.
so this would be 25%.
Totally outside of anything we've ever done in the past. And sets precedent for,
That's the one-off is the
I
reason
don't
why
really
it's
have a
before you.
problem though if they paid it over the 6 months.
That's the reason
Personally.
it's outside of what is typically done.
If spreading it out, because it doesn't exist, this feature, the spreading out feature doesn't exist for this,
For a customer deposit.
does that truly open the door for other customers, commercial customers? Hey, we want to have a, layaway plan too.
Yeah, I think somebody can go back to the minutes and said you did it for
It
that.
might, but
And is that a bad precedent to have?
How would you even rewrite the tariff to cover it?
So a couple things. I think the first point is, yes, to answer the question, anytime you're dealing with policy, you want to be mindful of precedent. You want to be mindful of, if you make an exception, that it's an exception that you would be comfortable with enforcing if somebody in the similar situation came before you. So my recommendation, anytime you're dealing with any kind of a waiver from policy, is to be clear in terms of the parameters and rationale for that waiver. So for example, if this or something the board were inclined to do, you can say the board will entertain a request no more than 6 months, deferral over 6 months for industrial accounts. So you see where you're putting the parameters, and the rationale there, of course, are your industrial accounts are going to have the larger deposits as opposed to your residential or other smaller accounts. But so those, to answer the question, yes, you do want to be mindful of that anytime you have a waiver of the policy. And the parallel is, if you do go forward, be mindful of being specific as to what you're granting a waiver for.
So did we go back and look at what the revenues from their facility presently is and come up with this number based on that? Because that's what we're protecting, unpaid bills.
Yes.
So what would this represent as?
But we would have to go back and look at the exact number, but
Wouldn't that be a better way of doing it?
That is what we're doing.
How
We're,
many months of unpaid bills, I mean, what represent 1 month or 6 months, or it seems to me it's kind of low for 1 month.
Yeah,
So, but Mike, to your point there, yes, industrial customers are the highest deposits, but they probably also carry a higher risk than a smaller one. So I don't know, I don't feel comfortable just limiting it to industrial accounts, because it seems like you're giving favor to one rate class over another.
So I'll answer it two ways. One, with a clarification, I'm not making any suggestion on
no,
the merits, so it's not my suggestion. That at the end of the day is up to you. I'm offering an example. The second point, though, is that I don't think in that drawing that distinction from a legal perspective, there would be any issue with that. In other words, if you're granting your waiver, my suggestion is, should you go that route, just being specific about it, and whether you say industrial, for these reasons. But I'm not making a suggestion on the
No,
merits.
and I didn't mean to imply that, but I'm just having trouble with industrial for these reasons. I don't know what those reasons would be, and because I don't think that because they pay a higher deposit,
Two twelves. That's how it's written, 2/12 of the estimated annual revenue.
2/12.
2/12.
So it's 2 months.
So it's
That's exactly how it's written.
1/6.
Yes. Trust me, I'm sitting here doing the same.
Can we come up with other ratios that would match it?
So their annual bill, their monthly bill is $13,500, and they're asking to pay that plus a third of the monthly bill.
And what if if we did that and they are late paying their first month or the second month of, does that put us in further jeopardy or?
I think this really comes down to risk management, and again, I think at its core, it is a security deposit, and so, regardless of what you do with the security deposit, you do still have enforcement mechanisms, but it becomes a risk management situation, where if you have a security deposit, you're taking that up front, and you're mitigating against your risk of if they don't pay. But again, what you're not doing is you're not waiving the requirement to pay for electric, and you're not waiving your ability to enforce whatever rights you have in collection. You're just saying, from a risk assessment, you're being asked to undertake additional risk than you would normally take under the policy.
And on the enforcement side, it's a healthcare facility. It's not like we're going to be able to go out and pull the meter. So it's even higher risk from that perspective. I'm just stating my opinion, so.
No, it's a reality. It's not just your opinion. It's a reality. For a healthcare is different from, I don't know, a brewery.
Yeah, good point. And I worry too, what does this say about their financial picture right now that they don't have this money up front? And I mean, that worries me. I might be comfortable with allowing them to split it up into 2 months. So the security deposit will cover what we expect them to have for the first month and the second then. But yeah, I'm a little worried about that.
It seems like a lot of effort to go through for, I mean, so half of it would be
13,000.
13,000 something. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like for the size facility they bought, that, going to your point, is it doesn't sail well. I mean, if this was indigent care or some other equitable justice type arrangement, I would be much more open to it. But this is a for-profit business. Anyway, so I think we should probably put it for a vote at this point, unless there's any other questions?
But what Excelcare is an agent for the facility, or they are the owner of the facility?
I believe they're the owner of the facility.
Okay, so as owner of the facility, they have obligations to meet, and the deposits are, part of the cost of business. And if they're that tight on their financing that they need to split the 27,000 into 6 payments over, 6 months, it doesn't sound logical.
All right, let's go for a vote. So they have a motion to approve the Excel request for the deposit of $27,570 over 6 months.
And let me just from a best practices standpoint, when you entertain motions, best practice is to entertain a positive motion, and then a second just allows for discussion. So seconding it, you can second and still vote no. But the purpose behind that practice is it's easier in terms of whether you're voting to vote on a motion to approve and the record is clear. So the entertainment is for a motion to approve, second discussion, but just because you move and second doesn't mean you have to vote yes.
But actually,
Make a motion not to approve.
Because it's cleaner in the record, because then what you're doing is you're voting yes to no, and it gets.
So what if nobody makes a motion?
So if nobody makes a motion, the motion dies, but then there's no action taken on the item. And so the best practice is to entertain the motion in second, and however you're going to vote, you vote.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about if there was no motion, then it would just
Then there's no
die.
action.
Okay,
Table,
but
yeah.
I did do the positive part. So,
So move.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 5 against, no abstentions.
And there wasn't any thought on to do like 2 months, right? I know that was brought up.
I kind of like Barbara's idea on that.
Let them come back.
Okay.
See how tight they really are. So currently, it stands that they have been issued the invoice, if you will, for a security deposit of the 27,000, right?
And when is that due and
They haven't
payable?
paid
Yeah.
anything yet, but their response from getting that invoice was to say, oh, gee, can we,
I believe
Negotiate a deal.
that's exactly how it happened.
okay.
Do we know when they took ownership?
I would have to go back. I mean, I don't have all that in front of me right now.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, how?
This hasn't been a long time. Like I'm saying,
Okay.
less than 30 days.
Well, I mean, their letter was only October 14th,
Correct.
so, all right. Board requests for items on the next agenda. So we've already placed some on there. Any additional ones?
Presentation from the Finance Committee.
Right, I think we already captured that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right, call to the public. Come, yeah, please come up. So state your name and your address
Sure
and,
thing. Okay, first name is Felly. I'll spell that for you. F as in Frank, E-L-Y. If you need another one, let me know. Last name is Cieza, C as in Charlie, I-E-Z-A, Cieza. I live at 115 Chalet Avenue, Unit 2. I'm not here to, I think the water pipe, no problem. Thank you for your prompt email. That was very helpful. We were away for several weeks. I know I have 3 minutes. I'm from New York. I'll be fast. So we were away, came back, and saw the Cape Gazette, and Austin, thank you very much, was quite nice in sending an email in response to some questions I had. I then watched the video of your September 25th meeting, I think it was, and thank you so much. You did a great job clarifying, like, an extra pipe, it's not to replace. So I'm up to speed on what the pipe is going to be doing. I think it's obviously very needed. No problem with the location of the pipe. It makes the most amount of sense. Absolutely agree with that. However, I have some additional questions. I have 5. So I don't know, instead of going back and forth in emails, I thought I would come. And if you don't answer them, I'm happy to send this out an email to the board, and appreciate your patience with me. I guess my question is still, I don't have a good overview. And by the way, all of us, I'm the only one here, but right now I'm the calmest one. So I was chosen to come and talk for all 4 neighbors. The bottom line is, how long is the pipe? I understand it's going under the canal and it's going, so can you tell me, is it going all the way to the water tower?
No. So it basically just beyond, when it's all said and done, it'd just be beyond that concrete half circle. But the reason that the trees had to be cleared is when you're doing a drill and you're coming up on that side, you have to maintain pressure on the drill head at all times. If you lose pressure, you can lose the actual drill path, if you want to call it that. You'll frack out. But The total length of the drill, Charlie, is it safe to say it's roughly 2,000 feet? Yeah.
So is it all happening underground?
All underground.
Okay.
Just until you get to the end of American Legion Road, and then you'll have open cut, which you'll have a directional drill, and then you'll have open cut, which they physically will dig up and go all the way to Savannah Road.
Okay, so you can say, I'm not educated in this, and so I guess the lack of communication with those of us on Schley has led to some misunderstanding and a little bit of confusion. So thank you for answering the questions. I appreciate that. So are you getting rid of the stumps and the roots as well, or is that something that's part 2 of the remediation component?
So I believe we discussed that most of that is all coming out. There's stuff on the private side, which is that property owner's, whatever his responsibility is or what they are going to decide to do. But I do believe we talked with the contractor, and I think they're going to be pulling out all the stumps that were cut down to a degree. They're going to pull that out, and I believe the plan right now is just to replace that, grade it, replace it with grass, and then that's where we engage with the city on what the ultimate end-all be-all for that whole area looks like.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute.
Because it's too late to plant this.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
And I
so-
understand that safety is first, and we obviously want to go with safety. Again, nobody's upset with the, doing the work and having it done. I guess the other question is, I'm still unclear as to, the pipe starts on the other side, goes under the canal, comes through under the path, and it just ends?
So it's basically gonna come up, and then you'll see them pull, so they're gonna fuse all the pipe, and they're gonna drill from American Legion Road. Drill head's gonna come out, they're gonna connect the pipe that's fused, they're gonna pull that pipe all the way back. They're gonna have a termination where it's basically gonna come to a point, it's gonna 90 up, 90 back, and go to Gills Neck Road, and it's gonna interconnect with a water main that's on Gills Neck Road.
But it's all underground.
You won't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, you
All right,
won't see it.
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
why the tree cutting went a certain place, then it stopped. I guess
That's where the excavator has to be able to hold that pressure on that drill head at all
okay,
times.
all right.
It's for equipment purposes, and frankly, it's gonna get us a better tree row.
A better,
Tree row.
a better tree. Well, you know what? Our neighbors, we've been taking care of those vines for the last 8 years. We've been cutting them down every spring and paying somebody to do it to bring the trees back, and they were looking a lot better. But new trees that big, I'm in. I guess the last question has to do more with the remediation. Would the BPW, and I know it's in partnership with the city, would they be willing to work with the homeowners, because our backs are significantly changed now? I understand it's not our property, but would they be open to having somebody be part of the replanting remediation process and just say, hey, this is what we're thinking, how does it look? You tell me.
I think we have to defer to the city on that, and, we'll be more than glad to work with you, but that's not our jurisdiction.
Okay.
But I think everyone is very sensitive to the loss of the trees and to improving the experience on the trail.
Oh, the trail is fabulous, considering that when we moved in, there was a railroad track back there and became, so I only saw the train once. I do have it on video. So I just ask that in the future, that I know we were away. Nobody seems to know that this was happening, and maybe it's on us to better, but an email, snail mail, we really are your neighbors. We truly are your neighbors. So we would, just appreciate just being kept in the loop a little bit. And if you want to use me as the contact person for the other 4 homeowners, happy to do it.
I'd be more than glad to meet with you and discuss it more.
Whatever you need, we're happy to do it. So thank you so much for your time, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you for everything that
Thanks
you've
for
done.
coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Amy Marasco.
Amy Marasco, 329 Park Avenue. I just wanted to comment and to compliment Austin and also Barbara and Kim on the grant project. I agree with Austin, we're making a lot of progress. I also wanted to offer, because I'm sitting with Richard on finance, compliance to a grant, as Barbara raised, can be a serious issue. So I didn't want you to think that I just help plan to get grants. I can also sit down, Kim, with you and others to get your pre-audit file ready, because you have the chance of being audited on these, and we can go through like how you set up your file so that you can have the best experience years from now when they come back.
And I'm going to add to that, because what we're starting to realize is, and it was mentioned actually at the pre-bid meeting, is the EPA is very much auditing now a lot of funding that's coming through the states, where before it was a lot more laxed and the states would go and do their thing. We have been made aware that the EPA is doing a lot more audits as it relates to projects that are coming through, specific on certain types of funding and where that's coming from.
Yeah.
So
I'll be happy to sit down, and then, we can look at the legal side of it too, because there are processes that you'll have to have records of hard copies still in the audit. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that I'm happy to help with that part of the process too.
Thank you much.
thank you, Amy.
I would ask if there's anyone online, Josh, but I think the answer is no. All right, call to the press. Bill?
I think I'm good this month.
Bill, if I can make a request of you, if you can have, I don't know if it's too late for press, but just to reemphasize, Hazardous Waste Take Back Day is will be done in the spring.
Okay.
All right. So, we have an executive session, but I'm not sure we need one unless someone has. Okay. Then, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I mean, come on. Okay, we have to have a second, and then if you want to vote against it, you can.
I'll second.
We're gonna have a discussion.
Where are we going to adjourn
All
to?
in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you.